we want to know everything from the pain points people have to the other competitors on the market to what people's current bookkeeping setup was, what tools they use, what they like, what they don't like. And we kind of took all that research to see if there was a market. And we actually saw there was. And not only that, but we learned a lot of times that these e-commerce bookkeeping services, they were run by bookkeepers, and these bookkeepers weren't necessarily the best at hiring and scaling and building processes. And because of that, they weren't that scalable, and that wasn't great for the clients or the Shopify sellers or whatever.
You're listening to E-commerce Fastlane, the podcast show to help you build, manage, grow, and scale a successful and thriving company, powered by Shopify. Listen to real conversations with partners and subject matter experts as they share proven practical strategies, platforms, and the best Shopify apps to help you accelerate your business. The time is now for you to improve efficiencies, grow revenue, profit, and lifetime customer loyalty. Please welcome your host, startup founder, and strategic advisor, Steve Hutt.
Today's episode is brought to you by Gorgias, the leading customer service platform for Shopify e-commerce brands, helping merchants to unlock revenue and deliver exceptional customer service. By prioritizing customer engagement, brands can create deeper and more personalized experiences for their shoppers. With the rising costs of acquiring new customers, retention is the key focus for direct-to-consumer brands. Creating outstanding customer experiences shouldn't be costly or a burden for your customer support team. This is exactly why Gorgias is so great. Gorgias helps you improve your customer experiences by managing all of your communication channels from one dashboard. It provides you with the ability to customize messages and automate replies, giving Gorgias users an unparalleled power to resolve customer inquiries quickly and personalized, which is why you need to improve your customer retention. Get started with Gorgias today and start managing all of your communication channels from one platform that's designed to help you. Exclusive to my listeners is a 2-month free trial, so go check them out today at ecommercefastlane.com/Gorgias. Well, hey there, my name is Steve Hutt. I'm Senior Merchant Success Manager here at Shopify, and welcome back to the 5th season of E-commerce Fastlane. And whether this is your first time listening or you're a weekly subscriber, I do seriously appreciate the fact that you're taking time and you're listening to the show today. I know there's plenty of podcast choices out there in Shopify and e-commerce and direct-to-consumer marketing, and just the fact that you're here today means the world to me, and I know it definitely does to my featured guest. Now, if this is your first time listening, this is an e-commerce show. We have honest and transparent conversations about building and thriving with your store powered by Shopify or Shopify Plus. Now, if you're an ambitious lifelong learner, which you likely are since you're here today, you're definitely in the right place. New episodes are available twice weekly, and they're available through all your favorite podcast apps like Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more. We're also streaming live now on Amazon Music and on YouTube, so you can go check them out. I also highly recommend to get the full value of today's episode that you click through from your podcast app of choice and click on over to ecommercefastlane.com, because there you'll have the full show transcript, all the links, and all the resources that we mentioned on today's episode. On today's episode, my guest is Nathan Hirsch, who's the CEO and co-founder of a company called EcomBalance, and they're at EcomBalance.com. And what they are, it may not sound sexy, but they are a monthly bookkeeping service that helps e-commerce brands and marketplace sellers to basically master their finances. It's not necessarily the most sexiest topic, but it's a very necessary topic, and he has a very storied kind of entrepreneurial journey, and I think he's going to discuss a little about building a business, the entrepreneur mindset around it, exit strategies, and just planning your business and why he got involved in e-commerce right from the beginning, and just the whole flow of kind of where he is today. So, hi Nathan, welcome to E-commerce Fastlane.
Steve, thanks so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Absolutely. So, on a high level, e-commerce balance, let's talk about that particular business first. I know there's multiple businesses that kind of lead up to EcomBalance, but let's talk about why should a Shopify founder who's listening today, why should they take notice about what EcomBalance is and the problems you're solving for brands today?
Yeah, I mean, when you're a business owner, finances are the blood of your company, and you have to know what's going on. And at the same time, doing your own bookkeeping is not a good use of your time. I mean, your time should be spent on growing your business, sales, marketing, expansion, and most entrepreneurs that if they do their own bookkeeping end up just having to pay to get it redone later down the line. And you do need to have a good monthly bookkeeping process. It's something that I figured out a few years into my entrepreneur journey. And once I figured it out, it was a game changer. Every time that the month would end, by the 15th, I would get an income statement, balance sheet, cash flow. I'd be able to make decisions based on what the numbers are actually telling me, which helped me scale an 8-figure business. And down the line, if you ever want to get investment or a loan or financing or sell your business, you're going to need clean financials going back. So there's kind of two benefits. One, being able to make good monthly decisions based on what the numbers are telling you, not what your gut is or anything like that. And the second is opening you up to any kind of potential exit strategy down the line.
Yeah, one thing I'd argue too that's interesting is that even though Shopify has a lot of analytics and a lot of the sales and revenue numbers, and yes, you can put cost of goods in there, and maybe we can finagle some numbers through a spreadsheet to figure out landed costs and cost of shipping and organize. There are some numbers in there. It's a little bit convoluted because there's so many reports and so many things going on. I think it's nice to have a fresh set of eyes that can prepare a monthly income and balance sheet and stuff for you, so that more than just trying to make decisions on what Shopify is telling you is actually going on of products you're selling and profit margin and conversion rate and average order value and some of the basic kind of marketing metrics. The financial metrics are another conversation that needs to be dealt with people that are a little more into it. I know this show is not going to dig into the nuts and bolts of accounting, because once again, that should be in the hands of pros with some great connected software. But let's talk a bit about before I kind of dig in deep into some of that, I'd like to talk about your startup journey, because it's quite interesting. And I just would love to understand how you got involved in entrepreneurship in general. And then how did it eventually lead you into e-commerce, and then now finally with EcomBalance?
Yeah, so this all started when I was a 20-year-old college kid looking for extra side money. And I had some internships, some jobs. I really got a glimpse of what life was like after college, just going to work every day. And I wanted no part of it. So I always wanted to kind of start my own business. And I started just hustling and buying and selling people's textbooks at my college and competing against my school bookstore. And one day I actually got a cease and desist letter from my college telling me to knock it off and stop competing with them. And that was one of the best things that ever happened to me. I bet. I had this Amazon account that I was selling textbooks on, and I started experimenting selling other products and found the baby niche. If you can imagine me as a 20-year-old single college guy selling baby products on Amazon, that was me. And I got into drop shipping years before I even knew it was called drop shipping. I started building relationships with these manufacturers who didn't really know what e-commerce was, but they had products and they could ship things, and they would keep my credit card on file, and I would get the products to sell on Amazon and get them to ship it wherever I wanted and make the margin. And before I knew it, I was running a multi-million-dollar Amazon business out of my college dorm room. And I ended up hiring my business partner, Connor, who was my first employee in college at Quinnipiac. And he became my business partner. And we really struggled to hire other reliable college kids, which kind of led us into the VA freelancer space. But that's how I got started selling textbooks and eventually pivoting to baby products.
Oh, so cool. I know we should maybe talk just briefly about getting involved in the VA industry. And ironically enough, I actually am a customer of your former startups, making you just maybe a couple minutes and just set the stage a bit about, side hustling is one thing, and doing your thing and cutting your teeth a bit into commerce, but then why go into the VA industry and create a platform for that?
Yeah, so the Amazon business was interesting. I think at the beginning, we thought we were going to take down Amazon and be the next big e-commerce thing. And we never really built our own product or our own brand. Right, we were very reliant on other people's brands. And there were a lot of highs. I mean, I think we peaked out at around $7 million a year, but Amazon became more competitive. They started changing their algorithm. There started to be courses and coaches and people opening up Amazon stores. And we kind of saw the writing on the wall that we weren't going to be able to drop ship forever. And at the same time, we had all these really good VAs and freelancers. We had spent years developing this great hiring process, and they weren't all full-time. Some of them were seasonal. And we started networking with other Amazon sellers, because before that, there wasn't any kind of Amazon community or e-commerce community. And so as we were networking, people told us about their hiring needs, which we had already figured out. And we started to lease out these VAs and freelancers to other people with the mentality that we would vet people before we would add them to our network, and we would protect the client if anything went wrong. And that became the free up marketplace and quickly started to outpace our e-commerce sales. I think it was a lot of fun for us to build our own brand and have our own website and build SEO and have kind of control of our business rather than relying on Amazon and whatever changes they made. And running B2B was a lot of fun too, just getting to know other business owners in the space. And so that quickly took off. A few years into Free Up, we ended up shutting down our Amazon business and focusing on that going forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so that's at freeup.net. I know you've since exited that. We probably won't time today to talk about that whole process, but it's very interesting. And I like I said, I'm currently a customer of Free Up, and I just thought for me, and you were obviously very integral in the SOP and kind of how the process actually works from signing up, putting a project out there, out into the wild, and what the service that I needed. And then from there, having your internal team make a decision on, we believe these is different than a typical kind of marketplace where you just kind of you pick. It's the other way around, where I had like candidates being revealed to me. I would vet them, communicate with them, eventually choose someone, then negotiate the rate, either a flat rate or an hourly rate. And it turned to work out just fantastic. And now, here I am more than a year into it. And, I have a very seasoned WordPress developer from the Philippines that's available, at $12 an hour that just does like phenomenal work. And he's very, very happy to work with me. And Free Up likely is very happy too, because the connection is made. And so just kudos to you. And that's the kind of experience that I have with Free Up.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I mean, it was kind of fun to get out there with a minimum viable product, which is how we like to build startups, and just get a lot of feedback from freelancers and clients and implement that feedback and grow it over 4 years and eventually have someone show interest in acquiring it.
Yeah, that's lovely. So let's pivot a bit to e-commerce bookkeeping, because that's kind of where we're at today. And that's really what I want to unpack from EcomBalance and why that brand. Can you talk a little bit about, was this just a natural progression to move towards this sort of done-for-you service, and why the financial industry?
Yeah, so the real story is we exited Free Up in November 2019. The original plan was to take a year off and travel the world. Little did we know a pandemic was right around the corner.
Yep.
And so while we were stuck inside with nothing to do because we had just sold our company, we ended up launching a course called Outsource School. A lot of people started asking us for our hiring process, and so we launched a course teaching people how we interview, onboard, train, and manage virtual assistants. And that was fun. We still run it today. We have a great community of entrepreneurs who take that and implement in their business and improve their hiring. And that kind of bought us time. We wanted to get back into the e-commerce space. We weren't 100% sure how. We didn't know if we wanted to launch a brand or open up a service. And we started doing a little bit of consulting with different e-commerce sellers. And we learned very quickly that we didn't like being consultants. But the common theme was that the first thing we would do in all these companies is revamp their financials and get a good monthly bookkeeping process going, because as consultants, it was impossible for us to recommend things if we couldn't actually see what the numbers were and what the trends were and what the KPIs are. So that kind of led us to the idea of, hey, we've had a great monthly bookkeeping process, and every business that we've run outside of the first few years of Amazon, where we learned the hard way how important it is to have that monthly bookkeeping process. And what if we started implementing that with other e-commerce businesses and even potentially non-e-commerce businesses down the line? And so we did a lot of market research. We interviewed over 100 e-commerce sellers. If you go to the EcomBalance blog, we actually published the surveys that we did. And we want to know everything from the pain points people have to the other competitors on the market to what people's current bookkeeping setup was, what tools they use, what they like, what they don't like. And we kind of took all that research to see if there was a market. And we actually saw there was. And not only that, but we learned a lot of times that these e-commerce bookkeeping services, they were run by bookkeepers, and these bookkeepers weren't necessarily the best at hiring and scaling and building processes. And because of that, they weren't that scalable, and that wasn't great for the clients or the Shopify sellers or whatever. So we ended up hiring a financial controller here in Colorado and building a team around her and building our minimum viable software, because that's what we always do, a client portal for people to log in and create an account and all that, even though we're service first. And we offered 2 free months of bookkeeping to 25 people in the e-commerce space that I knew, and used them as beta testers with the agreement that they had to bear with us as we worked things out and broke things, and they had to give us feedback, which they did. And we're super happy and thankful for that. And we really use this to get off the ground. And now we're at a point where we've got 60 plus clients and a team of 10, and we're kind of rock and rolling and we have our systems set up. But that's kind of how the whole thing came about.
Yeah, it's a cool story. I know we were kind of chatting in the green room kind of just before recording. And what's interesting is I read, and I believe you read a book, and I think you're aligned with Joe Valley. But he, and I think you read this book also, but the Exitpreneur's Playbook. And we just chit-chat. I want to share with the audience right now that it's so interesting how Joe Valley, and you're in alignment with this, I believe, is that, it really is about financial hygiene and just having things prepared and thinking for, if you later on you ever want to sell your business, it's just like, how do you, and he calls it like, how do you reverse engineer your pathway to success? Meaning, from a financial perspective, there's quite a bit of due diligence that's required when you've matured your e-commerce brand to be ready for an exit. It's more than just, hey, we have suppliers, we have profit, we have a cost of goods, we know what our CAC is and our LTV, and we've got all these other marketing things all dialed in. But maybe you can tell the audience a little bit about maybe the benefits of having really tight financials and what that means for the due diligence process from a letter of intent and then eventually to an acquisition day.
Yeah, so one of the most underrated parts of all this is that initial conversation that you're going to have with the buyer. And I still remember being on that call with Connor, my partner, and they were asking us all sorts of things about our business, our margins, our KPIs, our number of clients, like everything. And because every month for the past, at that time, 3.5 years at FreeUp, we had got an income statement, balance sheet, cash flow. We had gone through it together. We knew the numbers of our business inside and out. Everything that we told them on that phone call, when they actually got to due diligence and got into our books, matched exactly what was in our books. So from day one, we established a ton of trust with the buyer because we knew our business inside and out. And I know a lot of people that buy businesses, help people sell businesses, and that trust can be broken very quickly. When you talk to someone and they're telling you all the good things about their business and how everything is going great, and then you dive into the books and you're like, man, this does not match the conversation that we just had. So that's kind of the step one there. And for e-com businesses, and Joe Valley talks about this a lot, having accrual bookkeeping is so important. I mean, if you're doing cash basis, not only is it very hard to see what's actually going on in your business, because you might show a bad January because you bought a lot of inventory, and February, March, and April look fantastic, but that doesn't really tell you anything. Instead, you have to average it out over different months or display it in the month that you actually sold it. And so if you really want to know what's going on in your business and make decisions or get a high multiple, which Joe Valley talks about a lot, your business needs to be in accrual. And that's just a few ways. I mean, there's other things like deductions. We live in the era of conferences and masterminds, and these are all things that you can actually deduct because the new buyer of your company doesn't need to do those things in order to actually run the business. So having a bookkeeper that's actually able to categorize things correctly and knows e-commerce is going to help you get that multiple down the line.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll put a link to that book. Highly recommended. I even he has a really nice online course. It was actually very inexpensive too. That just kind of educates you on, hey, what sort of things, since I'm growing this business, I'm getting some traction and an exit might be on my mind. What can I do today? Part of the day-to-day bookkeeping and journal entries and all those sorts of things, EcomBalance can handle. But there's also other parts of that long-term strategy, like you said, of the multiple and other factors of building relationships and trust between the buyer and the seller. So I want to be devil's advocate for a little bit, just for a second, because part of my job at Shopify really is I do a lot of app audits and I double check to see like why is it that people connect to these certain kind of apps and marketing platforms to Shopify. Shopify does 80% of commerce really well with their platform. It's at 20% is usually filled in with some kind of a private connection or a public app of some sort. And I know if we go into the app store, like, there's QuickBooks Online, there's Xero. I think there's quite a few others. Even Shopify now has a global kind of ERP program, this enterprise resource planning for NetSuite and SAP and Dynamics. And anyways, the list goes on. There's quite an interesting, a lot of enterprise connections available through apps that are made by those companies. But then most brands are either already using QuickBooks or Xero. Maybe you can talk a bit about EcomBalance as it relates to having to use these apps or these platforms, or is there another solution that you have and use, and just want to understand some of the processes?
Yeah, so in every business that we've run, we've used either QuickBooks Online or Xero. And I mean, we live in 2022. There's a lot of remote businesses. If you're using QuickBooks Desktop, you got to switch to QuickBooks Online unless you really are having a bookkeeper come into your office every single day. So to me, those are the defaults. Nothing against like NetSuite. Usually that's better if you're just some huge company. But for most people, QuickBooks and Xero is a way to go. And if you're using one of the free accounting softwares out there, they're free for a reason. And if you're really serious about scaling your business, eventually you're going to have to switch to QuickBooks or Xero, and you might as well just get on them from day one. That's kind of my overall thought. And people will disagree what they like, QuickBooks or Xero. For us, our financial controller has 10 plus years of QuickBooks experience, so that's why we prefer QuickBooks. Although we're compatible with Xero, if someone's on Xero, we can still work with them. We're not going to make them move over to QuickBooks. But if they come to us and they're on Wave or Sage or whatever, we won't be able to work with them unless they can use QuickBooks Online, or unless they move over to QuickBooks Online. So that's kind of the basis. And then we use a tool called A2X, assuming these people are selling on multiple marketplaces, whether it's Shopify or one of the other ones. A2X is a great tool to just connect and get accurate information that actually reconciles and actually has a good grasp of fees. And you can have Shopify, but you might also be accepting multiple different payments through Shopify, whether it's Stripe, PayPal, whatever, and you need to be able to reconcile all these accounts. And so that becomes important. And we spent the first 60 days of EcomBalance just testing out all these tools. And keep in mind, you don't want to have, if you can avoid it, 6 different tools, one for every marketplace. Ideally, you want one tool that just works on every marketplace. So that and just the accuracy and the lack of bugs and all that is a few reasons why A2X is key. But that's kind of the basic setup that if you're an e-commerce business, you should have.
Thanks for supporting our incredible sponsor, Gorgeous, the leading customer service platform for Shopify brands. They help customer success teams fulfill a promise of delightful customer experiences. This leads to higher customer retention and brand loyalty for your Shopify store. Now, don't forget to click the link in the show notes. You get an exclusive 2-month free trial of Gorgeous, or you can head on over to ecommercefastlane.com/gorgeous. And the one thing that makes me think about too, internationalization is on a lot of brands' minds. So with this A2Xaccounting.com, I guess that's the connected tissue, I guess, so to speak, between Shopify and a lot of these marketplaces and stuff like that. Does EcomBalance, because you work with A2X and then your preferred is QuickBooks Online, is there any challenges of the internationalization, meaning the currency and the currency conversion, or any other kind of local payment methods that are very unique, like outside of what, PayPal and Stripe, Shopify payments, this sort of thing? There's lots of other interesting local currency options in local markets. Do you have much experience with that? And is there some long-term potential of being able to reconcile and understand and bring it all back to a default kind of American currency if the brand is truly American with mind and management?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the good thing for us, like, we don't do tax, so we'll work with your own CPA, your own tax person, but that allows us to work with clients all over the world because bookkeeping is bookkeeping. As long as it's generally accepted accounting principles, we have clients in Canada and Mexico and Japan, wherever, and bookkeeping is bookkeeping, like I said. And yes, there's some differences. I mean, currency is obviously a big one, but there's solutions for all of that. And I mean, some of the bigger things are some banks in other countries don't allow view-only access the same way that the U.S. banks do. So there's some small things that you have to get over. But if you're a seller and you're selling internationally, you want segmented bookkeeping where you know how your Amazon Europe or your Shopify in Japan or whatever it is compares to U.S. Because you want to know if you're spending your time on the right places. You'll see people who have 5 products, but they're losing money on 4 of them and making money on one and wasting a lot of time on the others because they don't have segmented bookkeeping and don't realize that. Well, the same thing applies to other platforms. You want to make sure that you're actually spending time on areas that make sense and doubling down on areas that are doing very well. So having a bookkeeper that can handle those marketplaces is incredibly important.
I'd also add too about the tax compliance side. We don't want to go down that crazy rabbit hole, but I think Stripe owns a company called TaxJar at taxjar.com. So that would be interesting, being Stripe is connected to Shopify Payments. So most people listening today are likely on Shopify Payments, and Shop Pay Installments is through our connection with Affirm. But there's also Avalara. So there's another company. I'll put these in the show notes. So taxjar.com or Avalara.com are usually the two ones. More than just the default tax engine that's built into Shopify. This is another way of maybe elevating maybe your tax compliance. I know there's some things going on in Colorado right now for some like local delivery taxes, and there's lots of craziness going on where both TaxJar and Avalara both have a nice tight connection with Shopify and can kind of help that and be a fail-safe or be the primary, then Shopify be the secondary tax engine pending one of these failures happen. So something to think about, separate topic. I want to talk a little bit about mistakes in bookkeeping, because I have a funny suspicion that you likely have some stories around just brands in general. Is there anything about financial reporting or bookkeeping that you've seen others make mistakes in, and then how EcomBalance kind of fills in those gaps?
Yeah, I mean, two of the biggest things are like top line in the income statement. A lot of people will put whatever the net deposit is from your bank account, whether it's from Shopify or Amazon or wherever it is, they'll put that as a top line of their income statement, which is not correct. There's sales, and then there's different fees and returns and refunds, and before you get into the actual net. And that's a common mistake that bookkeepers will make if they don't understand e-commerce. And the last piece, or the second biggest piece, is cost of goods sold. And we kind of talked about that when it comes to accrual, and A2X solves a lot of that, but you need a good way to account for that. And number three is just segmented bookkeeping. If you're selling multiple products, you want to be able to see how each of those products are doing so you can make informed, intelligent decisions. And those are the big three that you should be focused on. And if you're interviewing a bookkeeper and you're trying to find out whether they're going to be able to work with your e-com business, those are three things that I would target.
Okay, lovely. I want to pivot to a story now, because I think it's interesting to understand, I guess, the mindset and the journey of a brand. And those listening today can maybe put themselves in their shoes and saying, I have the same kind of challenges, or I haven't thought about the bookkeeping side of it, or the financial hygiene of having things accurate and ready for a potential future exit, and just better overall accounting practices and principles. So hopefully I don't put you on the spot here, but it'd be great if I could maybe share a story of a current customer you have right now, kind of what happened kind of pre getting involved with EcomBalance, and then using your services now as a current customer, and then what does that mean for their business, knowing that you're taking care of that sort of lift in their business?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's funny because Greek House was kind of in the same way that we used to do it from our Amazon business. We would kind of make decisions based on the money we saw going in our bank account, based on some analytics software. But then we would just wait till the end of the year, dump everything on our account, and he would spend 2 months going through it all, file our taxes, and we would repeat it to the next year. And to make things more complicated, I mean, they have a business where there's a lot of royalties. They're working with multiple manufacturers. It's print on demand, so there's might be 3 or 4 different touch points before a product's actually made and sent to the customer. They have net payment terms with different vendors, which makes accrual even more important, and they have numbers coming in from different directions. So we spent a few months actually going through it and getting everything backdated, done for 2021, because you have to catch up previous books before you can go forward. And we finally got them on a good monthly process where the month ends, by the 15th of the month, they get a report because they have these different manufacturers. Sometimes you have to do it by quarter, where each quarter will go through and update it. So they're getting preliminary reports every 15th and then updated at the end of every quarter. I would say most clients are not like that. They're a little bit bigger and a little bit unique. But more importantly, we're able to get them on a monthly bookkeeping cycle for them to actually make decisions and see how the business is doing. And once we did that, we're actually able to help them project out cash over the next 16 weeks. So they run a very seasonal business. They don't want to have to fire everyone every summer when they're in the slow times. So they need to be able to know how much cash they're going to have on hand, whether that allows them to get financing or it allows them to renegotiate terms with their vendors or whatever it is. They need to have that information with time to spare, not wake up one day and realize they don't have enough money to pay people over the next 2 months.
Right. So one thing that's interesting about EcomBalance is that as I kind of prepped just before recording today, and I noticed that you have a really neat workflow, and I think this is all part of the free up learnings and mindset along the way. But can you talk a little bit about how you price the product, and then what can people expect as part of an onboarding and kind of like quarterly or bi-monthly kind of touch points? Like what is going to happen along the way? I just want people to get their mind set around, hey, you're right, I shouldn't do the bookkeeping myself. I have QuickBooks Online already. I'm hacking it myself, but I'm not sure if it's correct. Someone hires your firm at EcomBalance, like what can they expect to happen?
Yeah, so I talked about those 2025 beta clients, and they really helped us come up with the process we have now. So right now, if people are interested, they can go to EcomBalance.com. If they mention this podcast, they get 2 free months of bookkeeping. So make sure you do that when you create an account. Create an account takes 2 seconds. You fill out our pricing form, which gives us some basic information about your business, and you send us access to your current books, which we provide instructions on how to do. So if you have QuickBooks or have Xero or have it in a different software, we've got easy instructions no matter what it is. And you send it to us and you give us a day and we go through it and we send you over a quote. That quote is usually 2 things, a fixed price for any kind of setup, catch-up, cleanup work, depending on how far back or how caught up your books are. And then a monthly price going forward. And if you go to EcomBalance.com/pricing, you can see starting points depending on sizes, but it really comes down to how many transactions you have, how many marketplaces you sell on, how many different accounts and processors you have. So get a quote from us, assuming we're happy to talk to you about it and you agree to it. Then comes integration. Our goal is to get access to as many of your bank's credit cards processors as possible. View-only access, we can't move the money around, but the goal of this is to make it so we don't have to ask you for things in the future. We don't want to have to reach out every month for statements. We want to just get all the access up front and then be able to hit the ground running. And from there, it's a kickoff call with our team, optional, to go through your business and really get to know it. And then we get started on the catch-up cleanup work. Once we're good there, we start doing the monthly books going forward. And we charge you on the 1st. You get your books by the 15th. We're happy to answer any questions or go over it with you if needed. And our goal is to get it to where you really understand your numbers and can make good decisions each month.
And then what happens, I guess, for year end and kind of the quote unquote notice to reader at the end of the year? What sort of service do you offer there?
Yeah, so as part of the integration process, we're going to get the contact information of your CPA or your tax person, and we'll be in communication with them. And since we're doing it monthly, once we get to the end of the year, we have everything for the entire year. So we will pass it over to them if they need any tweaks or changes or anything like that. We definitely depend on them for the tax side of it, but those are usually pretty easy, and we're turning over the books. And the whole goal is to make tax season less stressful, because by January, we're going to have the previous year done, and your CPA is going to get it well ahead of time. If any changes needed, we have plenty of time to do that, and your CPA can file your taxes, and that's going to save you money too, because a CPA is way more expensive than a bookkeeper. So anything we can do to reduce his time spent on your books is going to help you out.
Absolutely. So let's talk about the future for EcomBalance. You said I guess we're in your 2nd year now. You had your 25 first beta, and now I guess you're in your 2nd year or into your 3rd year.
No, not 2nd year. We're only 6 months old.
Oh, you're only 6 months into it now. So let's talk a little bit about the future. Like where do you see the business going? I mean, obviously we're in just shy of Q4 right now of 2022. Just like to understand maybe where you're at today and where you believe the brand is headed to help these Shopify brands.
Yeah, so we've got about 60 clients now. Our goal is to break 100 before the end of the year. And I mean, when we sold FreeUp, we had about 1,000 clients. So our goal is to get past that. FreeUp was doing $12 million a year by the time we sold it. And so anytime we build a company, we want to make it bigger than the previous one. So that's some long-term goals. We probably will add a tax component at some point. We might add a CFO component at some point. But we definitely want to make sure that we stay focused on the monthly bookkeeping. I think from our market research, a lot of times when these bookkeeping services start adding all this other stuff, what really starts to lack is the monthly bookkeeping, which to me is the core of everything. So we want to make sure we get that down. And we don't necessarily have plans to sell the business. We never really had plans to sell FreeUp, to be honest. We got approached by one of our clients that ended up making us a good offer, and we really liked them. And I mean, we build our companies to be sellable in the sense that there's good people, good systems, good processes. We know our financials, and that's the same regardless. But we really like this industry. We want to be a part of it. We love the team that we've built and the clients that we have, and we're excited for the next few years.
Oh, it's lovely. And you mentioned about the 2 months free, so we'll make sure that we zip that up into the show notes. So it'll be ecommercefastlane.com/EcomBalance. It'll be in our show notes, but it'll link over to your offer of 2 months for free. At least, I think it's worth kicking the tires and double checking. Go to ecombalance.com, at least have a look to see if for the small amount of money monthly, I mean, based on your size and complexity, it's a small amount of money net, instead of you having to do it or someone that you've hired kind of internally, wearing another hat, you have someone that's kind of in their day to day, and this is what they're used to doing. And if you're a QuickBooks Online or Xero customer, it makes it pretty seamless because you're already connected to your stores, already connected to your instance. You give Nathan and his team access to all your financials, your bank accounts and different details, and then boom, next thing you know, you have a quote, and then just that's one less thing you have to worry about, and then you can focus on other parts of your business. So any closing comments, anything you want to chat or just kind of takeaways for those listening today?
No, I mean, feel free to connect with me on social media, Nathan Hirsch on any social media channel. I love just networking with other entrepreneurs, and if I can help you in any way that has nothing to do with bookkeeping, feel free to reach out. On the EcomBalance site, I mentioned those monthly finance meetings that you should be having. We have an agenda for that you can download. It's the same agenda that Connor and I have been running for 6 years, so you can grab that and implement it in your business. It's something you should be doing if you haven't already. And we also have a blog where we work with a lot of partners in the space, so check it out.
Okay, lovely. All those will be in the show notes. Once again, thanks, Nathan, for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. One thing all this already, but the fact that Shopify really is on a mission to make commerce better for everyone. And, I say this a lot, but I feel it's interesting, our conversation today, because I believe you're also really are in tight alignment. You really do want to help Shopify powered brands to improve some efficiencies and take some of the load off their shoulders of having to deal with the bookkeeping and the financial side of the business. They can focus on more other impactful, higher value tasks and stuff. So just wanted to thank you for getting on the show, sharing your knowledge and your vision, and just giving back to the ecosystem.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much for having me, and I'll sure be in touch for other things in the future.
All right, sounds good. Have a great afternoon.
You too.
Well, that's it for today's episode. I'd like to thank you personally for being a loyal listener of E-commerce Fastlane. It's my hope that this podcast is offering you a ton of value through growth strategies, tactics, and exclusive insider tips on the best Shopify apps and marketing platforms, all with my personal goal to help you build, manage, grow, and scale a successful and thriving company powered by Shopify. Thanks for investing some time today and listening to the show. I'm so proud and excited that you have a growth mindset and are a constant learner. I truly appreciate you and your entrepreneurial journey. Enjoy the rest of the week and keep thriving with Shopify.